All right, we're back after a week off. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the recap videos over the week. So let's start seated on the mat. I'm going to curl and roll back to that nice flat back position, bent knees, finding that little gap between your low back and your mat. And we're going to work our pelvic tilts, and we are going to turn into an extension as well. So any of those movements that are contraindicated for you, just hold your neutral position, or maybe just go into extension or flexion, whichever you know works best for you, and focus on that breathing, drawing those shoulders down, tightening the rib cage in, drawing navel to spine. And we're going to exhale to tilt the hips back, pressing the low back against the mat as you draw the glutes, the tailbone, the hamstrings to the back of the knees. So you feel a little bit of that tension along the back of the leg. And then we're going to roll across, roll through to the pockets, to that nice neutral pelvis position, and then into extension, going heavy on the tailbone, anchoring across the shoulder blades, and then back to neutral. Exhale to tilt, imprinting the lumbar spine, feeling that tension build at the back of the thighs as you draw the abdominals in deeper, taking a breath in that flexion, and articulating back to neutral, low back and hip position, and then if you'd like, go into extension. Try not to flare the ribs, so you're still actively keeping the abdominals engaged, anchoring onto the tailbone a little bit more, sliding those shoulders down, and articulate back to neutral. Exhale, tilt. Inhale for a breath, and exhale to neutral. Into that extension, trying to keep those shoulders tucked back and down, focusing on the actual blades of the shoulders, the shoulder blades themselves, versus the very top of the shoulder. And moving into that last one, coming through to neutral. We're going to bring our arms back up overhead, drawing the rib cage down, floating the arms just off of the mat slightly so the back doesn't lift and ribs don't flare. On the exhale, arms lower, right leg lifts to tabletop. Toe will tap the mat as the arms glide back overhead. Inhale as you open, tightening up deeper into the core. Drawing the rib cage down, pulling into the center line. Resting the right foot on the mat, the arms glide overhead. We'll move to that left side. Exhale to lower the arms, lift that left leg, and inhale to open and brace. Allowing the arms to glide smoothly within the shoulder. And left leg is extending from the hip as the foot lowers, gliding the thigh away from the chest. And left foot rests on the mat. Arms are going to stay back overhead, reaching somewhat long with the arms without over shrugging the shoulders. We're going to go back to that pelvic tilt. We'll do a set of 3. Exhale to tilt the hips back. Imprint that low back against the mat, pausing and taking a breath to draw in tighter to your center line. And then rolling along the spine, across the sacrum, onto the tailbone, still maintaining that abdominal engagement. Rolling through to neutral and back into flexion. Rolling all the way through into extension for this last one. And back to neutral. Finding that neutral spine, that even placement of the hips. And on the exhale, arms glide forward, both legs lift to tabletop. Inhale to open, double toe tap the mat. We're maintaining that neutral spine. You can lower the legs all the way or modify and scale back the movement. Tightening up more the legs lower towards the mat. So we keep as much torque out of the pelvis as possible. Last 2. Bringing the legs to tabletop, drawing the inner thighs together. Arms can be either at your side or out to your T position for our spine twist supine. On the inhale, we're going to take the legs over to that right hip, the right pocket, keeping the blade of the left shoulder down and against the mat and floor. Exhale to draw back to center. Inhale to tip to the left, anchoring that right side, and exhale back. The rotation is coming from the mid-ribs, not from the low back or just the hips alone. The legs are staying stacked symmetrically, so there's no splaying of the legs as you tip. Picking up that right hip as you tip onto the left side. Drawing in deeper, building that pressure through the abdominal wall. One more each side. Coming back to center, holding that tabletop position. Create a little space between the legs, working in for leg changes. Inhale, right toe taps to the mat, and we exhale to alternate. Moving the leg from the hip alone. And again, you can scale the size of the movement. They could be small little movements at the tabletop position. Not to worry about touching the mat or the floor. Last 3 sets. Drawing knees into the chest, stretching the spine long across the mat. Gliding the shoulders down to lengthen through the neck. Bringing the feet back to the mat with knees bent and legs parallel. Feet are approximately sits bones distance apart. We're going to interlace our fingers. Bring our hands back behind the head to support the head and the neck. Elbows are folded up just a little bit. I want you to feel the broad pressure of the shoulder blades against the mat without arching the back or flaring the rib cage. On that exhale, we fold across the mid-ribs to lift the head, neck, and chest. Gazing between the knees and thighs, we pause for a breath at the top and exhale to curl back flat to the mat. Keeping that neutral position through the lumbar spine, through the hips, so we're not adding any additional flexion down the chain into the lower back. All that forward fold is coming at the mid-ribs, across the brow line, through the thoracic, just below the shoulder blades. Peeling the chest up, lifting the shoulder blades up as high as you can, and slow to reset. One more set, one more rep. Bring the arms down by your side, working into our shoulder bridge. Reset the legs if needed. On the exhale, we're going to tilt the hips back, working that pelvic tilt. Start to scoop and lift the hips, drawing the hamstrings tighter together as you pull the hips to the back of the knees. Knees are sent forward to the toes. Breathing at the top for a breath and articulating down the spine, inch by inch, vertebra by vertebra, all the way through to the sacrum. Keeping those shoulders connected down and back. Don't worry about the top of your shoulder touching the mat. Stay broad across the back of the shoulder blades. So we keep that pressure off the neck by focusing on imprinting the lower half of the shoulder blade against the mat. Find your pressure points there versus the very top. Drawing the abdominals in deeper, navel to spine. And last one. Bring your knees to tabletop position, drawing through the inner thigh, resting the hands on either side of the knees. We're going to fold and lift the chest, lifting the chest up. You could modify to keep the upper back flat. And we're going to inhale, reach that left leg long for single leg stretch, and exhale to change. Hands transfer from knee to knee without twisting through the upper body. Folding deeper. You can also support the head and the neck by interlacing your hands back behind your head. Reach longer with that leg. 2 more sets. Bringing the knees in, placing the feet down from the sits bones, fingers interlaced coming back behind the head, curling back to the mat to reset. Elbows are slightly folded in, again, not too open so you don't flare the ribs or arch the back. Coming in just a little bit towards the head, we're going to fold and lift the chest, anchoring onto the back of the hips, maintaining that little gap in the low back. On our exhale, we rotate the upper body right onto the base of that right shoulder blade, and inhale through to center. Exhale to rotate left, back to center. Rolling from shoulder blade to shoulder blade, across the mid ribs. Keeping the legs still. Finding that rotation through the mid back, keeping the low back stable. 2 more each side. Coming back to get back to center, resetting the upper body. We're going to bring both knees up to tabletop, moving into double leg stretch. We'll start with just arms and legs with the back flat. We'll add the chest lift in just a moment. We're going to inhale. Arms are going to go overhead. Legs are going to reach more for the ceiling without that chest lift. And exhale back to the midline. Pulling in deeper to the core to spine. Folding and lifting and adding that chest lift if you wish. Keeping the chest lifted as we inhale, moving the arms and legs away from the center line. Arms circle around back to that bent knee. Last 2. Drawing that right knee towards the chest, the left leg lengthens along your mat. Breathing into that stretch, even rotating the head and the neck right and left. Pressing the back of the left leg down against the mat and the floor. back to center. Reset the spine. Right leg is going to come to tabletop position with arms nice and long down by your side. We're going to extend that right leg up towards the ceiling and inhale to lower. Flex at the ankle. Bring the leg up. Inhale to lower, nice, straight, long leg. And exhale to lift. Bending the right knee in towards the chest once again. Drawing the right knee out towards the shoulder to stretch through the adductor and inner thigh. And then right leg comes across the midline towards the left shoulder to stretch the outside of the hip and thigh. Extending that right leg long on the mat. Bringing the left knee in towards the chest to stretch. Reaching longer with that right leg as you tuck the shoulder blades down the back and into the back pockets. Left leg comes to tabletop. Extending that left leg long. We're going to inhale to lower, flex at the ankle, and exhale, left leg rises. Bringing that left knee in towards the chest. And drawing it out towards that left shoulder for inner thigh stretch. And then across and over towards the right shoulder to stretch the outside of the hip and thigh. Bending the knees, placing both feet flat just down from the sit bones. Arms will come back overhead. Working into our hundreds progression. We exhale as the arms come forward, head, neck, chest lifts, gazing between the thighs. And inhale to reset. Having just that fold at the mid-ribs. Bringing legs to tabletop, pulling in through inner thigh, draw the abdominals in deep, building that tension, and exhale to fold and lift. Adding our double leg extensions. Coming up and holding on the next one. Holding here. Arms come up and arms lower. Hands interlace behind the head, legs lift and lower. Drawing the knees in towards the chest and reset back to the mat. Shoulders glide back and down. And we're going to drop the feet down. Bring the legs over to the left side. Look out over the right arm and the right shoulder with arms out to a T, palms up. Picking up that right foot, bringing it across that left thigh. Grabbing the left foot with your right hand if you can reach for a bigger twist and stretch. Unwinding, bringing the feet and the legs back to center. Realign your spine and legs. Legs tip over to the right. Arms out to a T. Look out over that left arm. Picking that left foot up, crossing it over the right thigh, holding on with your right arm. And reaching down, grabbing the right foot if you can reach, and deepening that twist and stretch. One more breath. Unwinding the legs, bringing yourself back to center. Legs are going to stretch out. We're going to come up to a seated position. You can sit up or work a roll up into that seated position. On the exhale, arms glide forward. Head, neck, chest lift. Start to pull the abdominals up and in. And curl and roll up. Rolling forward, stretching out over the thighs and the legs, reaching for the feet. And we curl and roll back. Staying in that C curve, dropping the shoulders down, tilting the hips back, rolling along the spine. Rolling all the way back to the mat. Arms glide overhead as the ribs draw in. Arms flow forward as the head, neck, and chest start to lift. And exhale to pull the abdominals in. Deeper to the spine. Staying rounded as you roll forward over the legs. To add a calf stretch, flex the feet, pull the toes back. Deepen that stretch along the back of the legs and hips. and curling back. Connecting the shoulder blades down the back, rolling segment by segment along the spine, down the mat, and arms flow forward, lifting the head, neck, and chest. Exhale as you roll and peel, inch by inch, up off the mat, segment by segment, and reaching long out over your legs. Last one. Arms are going to come long down by your side, finding that neutral spine again, bending the knees and bringing the legs to tabletop. You can always add for this next series your hands under your hips if you don't have a small pillow or wedge to help keep you a little bit more into that posterior tilt. We're going to bring our legs to tabletop and then extend the legs straight up towards the ceiling. On the inhale, they lower. And exhale to lift. One more. And bending the knees into tabletop. Going to our frog position, heels pressed together, knees turn out towards the shoulders, flexing the foot or pointing the toe, whichever you prefer. And on that inhale, we're going to extend the legs forward. And exhale to pull them back. Feel that tension drawing up the center line as the legs glide away. One more. Bring the left foot down to the mat with the knee bent. Right leg is going to extend up towards the ceiling. We're going to come down through the center, rotate the leg, circle out, back up and around. Working 5 down circles. And changing directions with that right leg. Out, drawing in, and up through the center for 5. Bending that right knee, foot to the mat, left leg to tabletop. Extending that left leg long, we're going for 5 down circles, down the center. Externally rotate the leg and the hip to circle back and around and up to the top. And change directions. bending the knees, bringing the knees to tabletop, legs to tabletop. Last one, we're gonna extend forward. Turn out, externally rotate the leg. We're gonna inhale to open and exhale to close. Reaching out, drawing back through inner thighs. You pull the legs together to the center line. One more. And draw knees to the chest to stretch. Legs extend long across the mat. Arms reach up overhead. As the arms glide forward, the chest begins to lift. And inhale to roll forward. Reaching out nice and long over the legs. And restacking the spine, sitting up nice and tall, segment by segment. Vertebra by vertebra, reaching up long overhead, fingers interlace, and we reach up and over to the right, and back to center. Up and over to the left, and roll forward over the legs. Sitting up, restacking the spine. Sitting as tall as you can. All right, guys, fantastic job today. Thank you so much. Welcome back.